Apparently, he doesn't think that trans women, i.e. trans-identified men, don't have the right to use women-only loos, which is weird because only a little while ago he seemed to think that trans women were women and that some women have penises. So why aren't the women with penises, or maybe they've had them cut off, I don't know, why are they not allowed to use women's toilets if they're women? The confusion abounds. Well, let's talk about this with Amy Gallagher, who's a commentator at the New Culture Forum. Good morning to you, Amy.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Look, you've been at the sharp end of the action from the woke brigade over the years. You know, having to sue the Tavistock Trust, actually, NHS Trust, for sort of the ideology that they sort of enforced on you to use at work. This is just the latest sort of chapter in the confusion that the top echelons of the Labour Party have on this issue, isn't it? Are we any the wiser as to women's protection under a Starmer-led government?
No, this is just because it's a lead up to a general election, and essentially Keir Starmer is trying to please both sides of the debate. If you really want to know what Labour think about these ideas, you look at their policies. They want to make it easier for a man to say that he's a woman by obtaining a gender recognition certificate. They want to make that process easier so that you can legally change sex more easily. They also want to ban so-called conversion therapy, which essentially means any kind of therapy which challenges a person's belief that they are the opposite sex. Now, we know from the Cass report, a report led by an esteemed paediatrician, that there is no evidence base for pure affirmation-only therapy. And yet Labour want to essentially reject the findings of an evidence-based report in favour of ideology.
And this is basically a kid says, I think I'm born in the wrong body, I'm a girl, but I think I'm a boy. That this gay conversion therapy, which then extended to trans conversion therapy, will literally say it's a criminal offence, effectively, for you to tell them, well, no, you're not. You're a girl, or whatever you're born. You're not born in the wrong body. That's not a thing.
Exactly, and it's taken 20 years of whistleblowers to bring about this report, and all of us celebrated when we finally had some clarity on this issue, and a Labour essentially want to row it back and undo all of the work that all of us have done in these issues.
Even though, by the way, they came to accept the Cass report, and even though actually a lot of the evidence in the Cass report was already well known to people like us who've been looking into this, and anyone who cared to. People I've been on Twitter with, or X, whatever it's called this week, arguing about this issue, the toilets issue, and indeed a Labour guest we had a little bit earlier, where it's sort of like, why are you all so obsessed with toilets and what someone's got between their legs? But there's a reason why women are not obsessed with these things, but concerned about these things, isn't there?
Well, of course, women's only spaces are really important, and it poses a complete risk to women if men can just come into those spaces. We know that. We've known for a long time. And the reason why we're so obsessed with this issue is because we aren't getting a clear answer on it. If they gave a clear and coherent answer, all of them, then we wouldn't have anything to say. But it was only last week that the Shadow Education Secretary was saying, well, a man who has a certificate that says he's a woman can enter a female toilet. And now this week, Keir Starmer says, no, they can't. And then I think now he's saying that they can. And you think, you've had months, well, years, actually, to have a clear stance on this issue. And they still don't have it. And that's what we want.
And other parties have the same issue. We've had the likes of Penny Mordaunt and others for the Conservatives saying trans women are women at the dispatch box. And about people, I mean, Gillian Keegan has been pretty bad about, in the Conservative Party, preventing, more action being taken quicker. We know Kimmy Badenoch has been, I would say, very sound on this issue, trying to protect women. And again, we're called anti-trans, not anti-trans at all. It's just pro-women's safety and women's rights that, by the way, we spent, and our mothers and our grandmothers spent a lot of time fighting for a reason. But the reality is the vast majority of people don't think this nonsense, and yet the political classes seem to be completely imbued with this. I'm Wes Streeting, to be fair, the Shadow Health Secretary. When I've asked him, we used to do the breakfast show, and I spoke to these politicians, and I said, are there any women with penises? No, women. He was just really clear on it. But even now, Keir Starmer says, I agree with what Tony Blair says. Well, what did Tony Blair say? We said women have vaginas, men have penises. That doesn't, we all know that. That doesn't actually get to the point of, do you think there are some women who, or some men who can change their sex or change their gender? And they never go past that point because the logic of their argument doesn't follow through, does it?
Exactly. And how bizarre is it that Keir Starmer only feels he can say that he believes in biology after Tony Blair comes out and says it? It's so crazy.
You don't believe in biology. It either is or it isn't.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But you see how so many MPs are gripped by fear on this issue. Even MP Jonathan Ashworth recently was saying, oh, actually, it's not for politicians to talk about these issues of toilets. It's down for restaurants to monitor who goes in and out of toilets. It's not actually. Small businesses and restaurants are terrified of intervening in this issue because if they allow a trans woman, in other words, a man, if they stop a trans woman entering a female toilet, they could be sued for discrimination. Yeah. They don't know what to do.
They want clarity, and also again, they people pander to. And again, we see this with with the big shops, with all the pandering to sort of a lot of the trans agenda and the ideology, where they just the people who shout the loudest and threaten boycotts and get caught, they're the people they pander to. Well, we need to start shouting louder. We need to be threatening the boycotts. We need to be speaking out and saying enough is enough. We're not putting up with this. And it's not anti anyone who's trans. It's just about facts. It's establishing facts. And anyway, you can choose not to go to a restaurant that doesn't have toilets that you like, but we talked to lots of parents and grandparents today whose the granddaughters or daughters are at schools where they've got children, they've got boys in the girls' toilets, girls in the boys' toilets. It's just I'm sorry, no one wants that. No, I can't imagine you're having your first period when you're a teenage girl. And there's a boy just outside the cubicle. I'm sorry, that's horrible for girls.
I know, it's terrifying. Labour really are the party of gender ideology. They do support transgenderism in their policies, and people need to realise that.
Lib Dems have fully signed up to it, so are the Greens. They've all supported it in Scotland. SNP fully signed up to it as well.
Yeah, there's other parties, but, we are facing, it looks like Labour are going to get in power, so we are going to be facing, years and years of this ideology being pushed more and more. So all of us who speak up, we just need to keep sounding the alarm because it's not over yet. This fight has got a long way to go, unfortunately.
It really does. I think a lot of us thought the cash review was going to be a big change, but it really doesn't seem to have done that. Great to speak to you, Amy Gallagher from the New Culture Forum.